What's up, everyone? My name is Aly, and you're listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. For this week's episode, we welcome Adam Wish Werven, aka Larry Wish, back onto the podcast. Earlier this year, the eclectic composer, songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist released his latest full-length, The Mind is the Builder, possibly his 10th or 18th album. Inspired by the works of clairvoyant Edgar Cayce and a deep love of music, Wish takes on the role of a philosophical singer-songwriter, weaving in references and explorations of consciousness and life in what he calls the first mature Larry Wish album. I'm grateful to Adam for the wide-ranging and unexpected conversation. We talk about everything from cryptozoology and Christianity to improvisation and inspiration, plus, of course, the record itself. Without further ado, here's my interview with Larry Wish on the Ear Coffee Podcast. Today, I am elated to welcome Adam Wish Werven back to the show. You may know him as Larry Wish, the one and only multi-hyphenate. Yeah, it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
The band just recorded a live session with us, so stay tuned for that in the future. We're super stoked that they were able to, and kind enough to take time out of their day to do that.
And thank you for having us. Yeah, super happy to be here.
It was an absolute pleasure. Since we were kind of joking before, we were recording, but before we started,
it didn't count.
It didn't count. It was discounted. I'm going to delete it. We were talking before about, usually I like to start with kind of just talking about like an artist or a musician's kind of like backstory, like their upbringing and their connection. But, as a repeat guest, we don't have to do that. So if you really want to know all about Adam's backstory and his connection with music and all sorts of cool anecdotes, I'm sure, go listen to that. You don't expect it now. We're not giving it to you now. We're not force feeding like here comes the airplane. Here comes the podcast.
Seasoned guests don't get the special treatment.
Yeah.
You're basically probably going to ask me like, so what do you do music or what do you like music or
why?
When are you leaving?
Yeah. We hopefully won't get to that point. It's not like 11 o'clock at night where it's just a little bit like...
True.
I think we all just want to go have dinner and go to bed.
Yes.
But yeah, we are here to talk about your latest record, The Mind is the Builder. Came out a few months ago as of recording in April of this year. So we'll kind of actually give that record almost like a little bit of like the backstory treatment, just since going right from the title. Usually I don't like asking like, what's your band name mean? Or like kind of questions like that, since they feel a little cheap. But in this case, it's a very intentional part of kind of like the record's philosophy.
Yeah.
And what sounds like at least kind of what your worldview and how you're presenting a lot of your thoughts and feelings on this record.
Yes.
How do you pronounce the guy's name? It's Edgar Cayce?
Edgar Cayce. I believe. I've actually never heard it pronounced, so I could be completely wrong.
Cayce seems better than just Case.
Yeah.
But he's a philosopher. He's a clairvoyant.
Right.
And he has I don't know if it's just like a phrase taken from one of his works or speeches or something.
In the biography I read about him, it was just sort of like presented as a quote that he said once, maybe more times even.
It's a pretty good quote, so I hope he was able to wring some worth out of it. Just
Totally, and I feel like there's truth there for sure, to some extent.
At the very least, it makes you think, and I think evokes a lot of kind of introspection, which this record also does. But before we really get into the music, the lyrics, all of that, what was your introduction to Edgar Cayce's work? What has your relationship been with that, like especially as time has gone on and it's at least seemingly become a lot more personal or just kind of interconnected and inspirational for a lot of the kind of foundational ideas for this new record?
Sure. So I am digging back into my brain right now, and my mind might be under construction at this point because there's a couple of unfinished sections of the bridge, I think, that we're gonna have to jump this bus in the movie Speed to get to. That's something else we were talking about before. But I believe that a friend of mine, in one of our conversations about different clairvoyants and kind of people who were like Americans on the forefront of like consciousness theory. Edgar Cayce came up as a suggestion somebody that they suggested that I look into, because this person was like active in the 1800s.
Yeah, like late 19th century, early 20th, maybe.
Yeah, and like in the thick of the period of spiritualism where everybody was trying to make money off of like, I can know your future, I can contact your dead relative, I can heal you, this and that. And, all of them were basically found out to be hoaxers.
Yeah.
This person, Edgar Casey, was the one person that the magician, my brain is totally under construction, but Houdini.
Houdini, yeah.
Houdini went on his like possibly worldwide, at least like nationwide tour of trying to expel the hoaxers and prove people wrong, that they weren't actually conjuring spirits, they weren't healing, they were just full of tricks. Edgar Casey was the one person that he could not figure out where the invisible strings
like
were.
How
was he doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't have people like that back during like biblical times. It would have really made some religious leaders real pissed off.
We would be living maybe in very different times, and hard to say for better or for worse. Maybe.
Yeah, it's so long ago, and so many like dominoes have fallen.
Yes,
that it's pretty much pure neutral at this point.
Right.
Yeah. So, how is your you thought and kind of connected with his work in relation to specifically your music and this album? How did that connection start to kind of formulate? And maybe that'll lead us into when you started writing the record, which was like early COVID.
Right.
Sounds like you kind of had just like an experience where just everything kind of flowed out of you, as a lot of artists who are lucky enough to kind of have those experiences where like you kind of connect or touch into something, and just a bunch of work comes out. Versus like sometimes you're grinding away and you're sitting at your desk and writing.
And it's a slog.
It's a slog.
Yes,
It was a little bit of a different experience this time.
Yeah, this was one where I was like very, very fortunate enough to just have some sort of channel open to be able to receive work that I wanted to do and songs that I wanted to make, which I think has happened in the past too, but this time it felt very almost like fast forward. Like here you've got like a month, write all these songs. But I feel like the connection of the work to Edgar Casey and kind of like consciousness theory and spiritualism at large, a lot of it has to do with the book Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts.
Yeah, Roberts.
Yes.
Rogers or Roberts?
Yeah, I believe Roberts, who was a medium who accidentally, like at sometime in the late 60s or 70s, I believe.
I was reading up and they were like just kind of looking into like Ouija boards and like connecting with that. And
doing some like free writing.
Yeah.
And ended up connecting with an entity named Seth, who was kind of like, hey, would you and your husband mind dictating this book for me? I have a lot of things on the nature of being and your reality and the soul that I would like to get off my chest. And so I don't know. I'm like really a huge fan of like, why am I here? What is consciousness? Like, what is a journey? What does my journey look like? What can it look like? I really love to spend time being introspective and like chasing rabbit holes down my own psyche.
Yeah.
And so that book, Seth Speaks, just like hit a really important nerve with me many times throughout my life. And during like April and May of 2020, it was a time that I was revisiting it and actually reading it in full for the first time.
Okay.
And so I'm reading this book kind of all about like dimensions and the nature of the soul and like consciousness and like, why are we here? And all the big questions.
The questions that almost like when you just think about them in passing, almost seems like almost kind of passe or cliche to think about.
Totally
but then when you
cliche,
actually genuinely investigate it, then it takes on a whole level of resonance that's like just can be overwhelming.
Right. Really overwhelming, possibly annoying. Yeah. If you're like, I'm just trying to go work at Starbucks and like get through my day. Like,
what do you mean, why am I here? What's my cosmic purpose?
Exactly.
Not to give people lattes.
Right. Yeah. maybe in some small way for like their own particular journey, maybe to learn that they don't like serving lattes.
Yeah,
maybe,
the puzzle piece is just one piece. It's not the whole puzzle. It's
one of
not
1,000 plus for sure. But yes, I really love looking inside and trying to uncover more and more layers as often as I am able to.
Yeah. Have there been any other kind of key inspirations on, or just even that you've enjoyed on that front, whether you've made like a parallel with any of your music or even with the other books or thinkers or people that we've discussed?
I would say,
besides just like, sitting and just thinking for yourself, because that's a huge part of it, just like introspection. It's not in extrospecting. I don't know if that's a word.
Prospecting? Prospecting?
Yeah.
Digging for that exterior gold.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like since I was a child, I have been a huge cryptozoology fan, and like just like ghosts, aliens, Bigfoots, Mothman, all of that stuff. Yeah. So coast to coast, listening to that radio show like in my early 20s at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whenever it airs. I feel like that has often been like a wealthy source of inspiration, and certainly like books on cryptozoology. Like I think earlier we mentioned the Mothman prophecies, which was written by a Minnesota journalist, John Keel, who was looking into all these happenings that were happening out in West Virginia in like the 60s. People were like, oh, there's aliens, there's UFOs, there's people flying through the air, there's a Mothman we keep seeing. We're getting like knocks on the door by like shadowy men in the middle of the night and being told like, you didn't see this. So that's a very fun book.
Now we just have the CIA. We don't have to do the door-to-door thing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's happening, but we don't get like the courtesy of an in-person visit. It just happens in the background of all of our lives. But I mentioned that book because we played tonight a song called Indrid Cold. And Indrid Cold is a character in the Mothman prophecies that people were purportedly having interaction with, witnessing this person walking down a flight of stairs or a ladder from a spaceship, getting phone calls from this person, getting like knocks on the door from this person. There's lots of sketches of Indrid Cold on the internet. That's kind of a fun Google image search, or Bing or DuckDuckGo, whatever you're using. Do an image search for Indrid Cold.
Look it up on your device, your capital D device.
Yeah.
That
Look it up on Bandcamp.
Yeah. Yes, actually. Do that as well. Maybe not. I don't think they have an image search currently. But at least you'll find the song. So that's good.
Yes.
You mentioned before just having kind of had some of these almost like transcendent musical experiences throughout your life.
Yeah.
Has there been kind of maybe like an unconscious way that you found yourself, like how you've been able to remain open to these experiences? Because at least maybe I'm just thinking for myself,
right?
But sometimes you just feel really closed off from any kind of creativity or kind of connection with what you're making or something beyond yourself, whether that's even just like a friend, like a human connection or something like this. Talk a little bit about that experience, or like if you've had any like kind of perceptible clues. Like it's obviously not like a switch someone can hear, like, oh, I'm going to be open to just like really emotional and connecting, just like profound artistic experiences this month, but then next month I'm going back to work.
And then I got to go back to Starbucks.
Yeah.
That is something that's definitely one of the rabbit holes that I like to chase in my own like experience in this life, because I don't know why, but I have been just time and time again really fortunate to be like available to take the call and have a bunch of music get made. And I think for me, I think that, and don't get me wrong, there's definitely been times where it's like, wow, I feel like I don't know what this song should look like or how to go about making this music. But I think a lot of times having like the deep and burning desire to make something happen, has been really helpful. Kind of like telling yourself or telling the universe, or just like almost like flipping a switch on and saying like, hey, I'm available to make something, and I'm available to let it be, let it not look like maybe exactly how I want it to look. I'm available
let
to
it come
have
how it's going
mistakes.
to. Yeah.
Yes, I'm available for mistakes. I'm available for accidents. I'm available for frustrations
And
curiosity and hard work. I think kind of just like tuning your brain and the way you think to like hard yes.
Yeah.
And then of course like putting in whatever physical work that might look like. If you're like working at your DAW and working on a program, if you're working on a guitar, if you're just like walking along the street and humming a tune, just kind of like having the yes in your mind and having the availability and the space to like do some tinkering around.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's just the Christian trauma popping out, but that just kind of that idea of openness is something talked about a lot about in the context of prayer within that kind of realms of faith and spirituality, where you're just like, it's not just, oh, I'm sitting down with my list of things that I want. You're not like praying to some energy force. Like, I'd like to write some songs, please. At least in that kind of like explicit way.
Not that literal. Yeah.
You're just like kind of opening yourself up, like instead of saying like God at the beginning or
right.
Like, let's get through this time. Let's see what happens, and whatever happens will be. Yeah. And help me to be present for it and make something out of it. Make the best of it as much as I can. Yes. Whether it's, in the moment sucks and it hurts, or if it's kind of cruising the whole time, maybe a little bit of both.
And accept that if it sucks and it hurts and it's frustrating, maybe accept that part of the process, because it's not forever. Maybe you're writing a song and you started out with a feeling or an idea and it was great, and then you got to a point where it became really frustrating and challenging and difficult. I think that for me, often accepting the frustration and accepting the difficulty and the challenge helps me find solutions around it, or at least helps me know when to take a break and when to maybe it's time to have a little bit of distance, and I can always come back to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's still not closing off the channel permanently.
Right.
But, looking the other direction and focusing energies elsewhere for kind of your own sanity. Sometimes it feels like you get stuck in one of those rabbit holes and you kind of start burrowing too deep.
Yeah.
If there's
no one wants
such
to be
a thing as
sprinting
too
forever.
Deep.
Like, you got to take a break.
Yeah. Not even the most athletic people in the world can do that, and I'm certainly not one of them.
Yeah.
I get tired really fast.
And they probably wouldn't suggest it. They'd be like, stop and drink some water.
Yeah, they would not want you to do this. The Olympians would not want us to do this.
Right. I listen to the Olympians.
Yeah. It's coming down from high above.
Yeah.
Still is somehow.
Yes.
The Greeks were right.
Yeah, it turns out.
Out of all of the people guessing throughout history, it was the Greeks.
There's a Zeus.
And he's just as weird as you think he is. Zeus aside. Let's get into kind of the actual record itself.
Yeah.
Not that like previous albums, of which there have been so many, haven't had your distinct personality or insight into all these different things and feelings that you've had, or that we as people have. But it is a lot more kind of honed in and focused on that.
Sure.
Even compared to just the record we talked about last, where it was leaning kind of fully into the other direction of playing a character, letting that kind of be the guise that you inhabit while writing and playing and engaging with these songs, and letting that be what it is, and now doing something different. So it's still, I can hear a through line just as a listener, and as someone who's engaged, been lucky enough to hear a lot of your songs over the years. But this record, and you kind of described it as such, feels like a different step forward.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about kind of those contrasts, especially as the record started to come together, as you started to feel what it was going to be about and what kind of the results or the initial results of that kind of burst of creativity when a lot of the record kind of germinated?
Well, I feel like often when I start making something, it's not always like right at the beginning. Sometimes it comes along a little bit later as the project goes along. But often when I've been making music, at some point I kind of make a conscious decision and say like, I want this album or this EP or this like song or this work to be like have this like sort of concept. Like with Capricorn Sun, it was very much like, okay, I want this to be like this hyper orchestral instrumental album kind of centered around naval themes and this character composer head and like silly classical music-esque stuff.
Rowing your boat. And
yeah, exactly.
all that jazz.
This album, The Mind is the Builder, as the songs were being written, it came to me that like I really want this to be my like singer-songwriter album, where it's more where I kind of more, this is very cliche to have to say, but like more I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve and I'm like putting myself in front of the music instead of kind of like using styles or like weirdness,
like deflecting,
almost
reflecting,
being like, here is like a shard of myself, which like composer head, that's a shard of myself. Another album like Soundtrack Music, this kind of like experimental like neoclassical like jazz-ish album, that's like sort of a shard of myself. This one I really wanted it to be like, here's my whole self as a songwriter, while still kind of like trying to use my style to convey it, because I guess it would be hard to get all the way out of like how I make music. But this was me just trying to be a singer-songwriter and write the like best like pop rock songs that I could come up with.
Yeah. The record definitely still retains kind of the whimsy and like kind of like a little winkingness that just, especially in the music. It still has kind of like the same blended sounds and a lot of the same just kind of eclectic proggy tendencies that that have been part of your art because they're part of you for this whole time.
Hard to remove exactly all of that.
And hearing you talk about it, sounds like it's not something you even would have wanted to do.
Right.
Even as the kind of this intent to follow through on making like a singer-songwriter pop record, but a Larry Wish singer-songwriter record. It's not like coffee shop acoustic music like a lot of people, or like any sort of like folk rock or whatever you stereotype as a singer-songwriter, whatever genre comes to mind when you hear that descriptor, because that's not a genre. That's just kind of like a role. It's like it's something that someone does because you sing the songs and you also wrote the songs.
Right.
That makes you a singer-songwriter, no matter what songs you're singing or what songs you write.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, being like genuine with my songwriting, it was like, let's have a bunch of organs and synths and drums and lots of guitars and bass and big rock band horns and
the full like, especially I think for sure on the intro track and at the very end of the last track, it just has like this huge cacophony of strings, or probably strings as well, but like of horns and winds and
all horns.
It was all horns.
Yes,
and just this. Talk a little bit about that. Just maybe I'm just showing my bias as a horn player. But
I think you'll like it.
Yeah,
because it was so fun to like record those parts.
Just looking through like the credits and just seeing how many like there's usually a lot, even in bands that have horn sections. Like we have one alto sax, one tenor sax, maybe two trumpets, depending on like a Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band or something. Where it's just this huge wall of sound, but not in like a Beach Boys way, in a noisy kind of jolting you into the record kind of way, and then jolting you awake from this kind of trance at the very end.
Yes. So that I'll start with how we recorded that, because that was just such a fun process. at Mid City, the studio that we recorded the album at. Those sessions consisted of 20 written prompts that I had made that I would give to the musicians.
Like a 1-to-1?
Like 1 to 10, like whoever was there. Say we had a session where 10 people were present.
Yeah.
It would be, okay, 10 people, we're going to record improvised horn sounds for 2 minutes, and I want you to act like a newborn baby.
Okay.
And then we would do that for 2 minutes, and I would cross that one off the list. And then, okay, we're going to record for 2 more minutes. The prompt is, you are floating in space. Record for 2 minutes. The next one, we're chickens on a farmyard. 2 minutes. Going down the line until we had 20 2-minute recordings all layered over each other. And then did that for another day. So it ended up being like 40 tracks of like 5 to 10 horn players improvising with each other, and then all just like smashed on top of each other.
Yeah. That kind of almost like system of prompting, I can't remember the name of it, but like Brian Eno had something in the 70s where it was just like these little like kind of like flashcards of just like almost like kind of disjointed, vague artistic prompts where it's like write something where it's just like this. It's not like write something happy. Write
oblique strategies.
It's oblique strategies. Yes.
Yeah. My brain was like
stretching. Haven't revisited it in a long time, but look that up if you haven't heard about it. Especially if you're a writer or a creator of any kind. I think it's a fun little.
They're useful. I have a deck.
Yeah.
That a friend made for me. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'll steal that. That might be a good anyone give me a birthday gift?
Right.
Bunch of flashcards.
Great gift
made
idea.
by Brian Eno. Yeah. I love kind of how you can give such an abstract prompt and see how different people take it.
Yes.
And that's the point. It's not like, here's what I want you to sound like when you're floating in space.
No, there's no wrong answer.
Think?
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to that idea of kind of like channeling the moment or channeling the whatever creative energy. It's just following through on it, and there are no wrong answers.
Yeah.
There may be answers that you change later on,
right?
But in the moment, that's the answer.
Embrace the question mark.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that out of the way just as a fan of noise and also saxophone.
Whenever we combine those two elements, it's a great time.
Yeah, very, very much. So with kind of how the lyrics and the music both developed as the record came together before kind of diving into recording and arranging everything with these not every song I think had like 20 plus folks on it, but it's still like a small orchestra, a lot of different collaborators. But as you were working things out, just behind the scenes, writing the music and the lyrics, even within that kind of initial burst, did you find that the music came pretty naturally once the lyrics started coming? Were they in conjunction? Because I think you might have said something online about how like the lyrics were kind of what came first, or
the lyrics came last.
Oh, they came last.
I think in almost all instances, and that's usually how I work is the lyrics are kind of I need to treat it as like two separate things. Because it's 100%. Like, many of you I'm sure know it's like using two different brains. Yeah. So I think some songs there were like snippets where I would be working on writing the song, and then I would maybe have like a loose thought for like, oh, it would be fun to say this in like the verse or something like that.
Like jotting that down, coming back to it a little bit later.
Exactly. But a lot of it was just like sitting with my journal and like kind of thinking about the music, and drinking coffee and just like writing some lyric ideas down.
Yeah. Is that pretty common for your lyrical process? Since like part of what makes this record unique even in your discography is just that very deliberate, strong emphasis on lyrics.
Sure.
At least I've always like associated just with music first, and that's just a tendency of my brain.
Sure.
And hence why I listen to so much goddamn ambient music. There ain't words. I can read a book to this. And so that always jumps out at me first.
Yeah.
And I kind of have to remove myself and engage with the lyrics a little bit more intentionally. And doing that on this record was part of what makes it such a fascinating listen. But yeah, is that kind of is that been pretty normal for your process, even if they haven't been like kind of thematically unified or spiritually unified? Like music kind of is the natural first step, and then lyrics are tinkered with and kind of combined as you go along. Usually I'm the other way. I can write lyrics for days, and then I'm like, music? I don't know what that is. Chords? So I'm envious of maybe not envious, because it's just different ways that people work.
Of course,
but,
totally.
It's just the difference of it all makes you just like, oh, the grass is greener over there, and it's just a different lawn. Totally.
Oh, yeah, I find myself on that side of the fence too. I'm like, oh, I wish that I could do this X, Y, and Z way, but and at the end of the day, it's like, oh, maybe I can in the future.
Yeah, I can work to do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's suddenly off the table. Like, oh,
right.
I'm struggling with it and it doesn't come naturally. I can't do it. No,
it's a goal.
It's a goal. Yeah, exactly.
I would say, I think that often for my process, I find myself at the end of the songwriting day, kind of sitting with a journal and going like, here's what I think the verse of this song should be. I think I want to say this in the chorus, da-da-da-da-da, like really kind of just like sitting and writing things out. There have, of course, been times where I'm like driving and like I'll be parked somewhere and just get a flash of an idea and go, okay, I need to like write that. I need to text that to myself or open up my notes app or something.
If I don't, it's gone.
Seriously, yeah. Or dream. I'll dream something and I'll sometimes I'll have to, upon waking, write it down, or I know it will be gone. And that's...
You got to pull McCartney your shit a little bit.
Seriously, well, that's how the song Astral Projection came about, is that a lot of that song, the music ideas came to me in a dream. And that was one where I really had to write it down. And like do like a sing into the phone or sing into my computer or something. I don't even remember what. But that was one that was like a really fun dream, and that's a fun way to write music.
Yeah.
You should try it. It's like,
if you
everyone
can,
just do that.
Jot down your dreams right when you wake up, because otherwise, at least I know I'm gonna forget the dream right away. It's like, it was weird, and there's maybe like one detail about it, but that usually isn't going to be like the kernel of what the dream was about, or what you can kind of extract from it.
Yeah.
Especially if it is like a musical idea or just kind of like a creative prompt almost.
Right. And there have been some that I've just let go for sure, because it's like, I'm too tired.
Yeah.
I can't write it down. I'm sorry.
I don't.
It was beautiful.
I'm accepting the perhaps loss, or just accepting the that I'm moving on from this moment.
Yeah. Just be thankful that it happened in the first place, and be like, that was...
If it's meant to be.
It's time.
If it's meant to be, it might resurface. But in the meantime, I'm not going to lose sleep on it.
Exactly, yes.
There are a couple lyrics that I just found myself jotting down. Since a lot of it is not something like an A-B rhyme scheme. And like it still has like structure, but it's like there's lines like, I think... I'm blanking on the song now, but it takes a lot of kindness to be alive.
Yeah,
every precious moment has no end.
Yes,
just these like this wisdom that like has been learned through time, and is being relayed now through this proggy synth song and with some harmonies over it,
right?
And that was just like, that's always an interesting way of writing, and just especially just. Even without listening to the music, just sitting and like looking through the lyrics without music going, without listening, which you should listen. It's meant to be taken as a whole, but when you read it on its own, different things stand out. I think,
right.
And it was a kind of a fascinating read through as well as a listen through.
Every precious moment has no end, I think is one that I was really happy to get down in a song, and really thankful that came to me, because I do believe that, like, whenever we're thinking about something, like everything we experience like isn't finite and doesn't end. And like whenever we kind of look back in our lives, I view that as like a form of time travel.
Yeah.
Almost like just, consciousness time travel. It's like, I'm going to go revisit this room again.
Yeah.
I'm going to revisit this thought or this dream I had or this experience with another person or this experience that I had by myself. It's it changes, but I feel like it's always there, unless if we like somehow lose access to our memories, which can happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse.
Truly, yeah.
Sometimes you have to re-unlock it and just get the shovel. I know that sometimes a good afternoon just kind of shoveling through the layers of sediment in your brain just to find something. You might not find any nuggets down there, but the work itself was maybe the nugget.
Yeah. We got a prospect.
Yeah, you got a prospect. Without like going too into it, or without like kind of like spoiling the blissful ambiguity of the record, but we already talked about how like the Seth Speaks, the book, that's the name of the first track.
Yeah.
There's the song Being There. I don't know if that's also a reference to either the film or the Wilco record, which is a reference to the film, so it's all kind of
nice,
contiguous.
Film and the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a book too.
Yeah,
of course.
Jerzy Kosinski.
Oh,
the author.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I'm up in my Goodreads after this.
It's a quick read. It's like a pretty thin book.
Okay. Yeah, get a weekend.
Yes.
But just a lot of kind of self-referential, not like specific. Maybe that's not the right word for it, but referencing things that have been meaningful to
Life
you.
referential.
Life referential. Yeah. It's like these little bits and pieces and these pieces of art.
Yes.
That have been so meaningful throughout your life that are just kind of popping up maybe in. Sometimes, it's a song title. It also shares the title with a book, and it is more transparent. Sometimes, it's a little bit more deliberately or unintentionally nebulous, and I think that's part of the beauty. And it's not like we're trying to say you're going line by line. Like, tell me about this lyric.
Right.
Tell me about the next lyric.
Well, it's not always fun to be so on the nose too,
Exactly.
with like references in any sort of art or music, maybe like
you can get lost in that.
Yeah, some of these things are very deliberate references to like specific things, and then some of them are just maybe more like ambient references to like experiences I had or thoughts I've had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any other highlights or kind of stronger connections that you wanted to mention, again without giving too much away and kind of spoiling the mystery? Just like kind of like it's when you look up the Easter eggs in a movie after you see the movie a little bit.
I feel like Kind It Takes was that one. That one was kind of one that had more of like a ambient reference, since it was written in like April and May of 2020, and the times were just like so rough and turbulent, and everybody just was very, very, very upset. Things are still so rough and turbulent, but I felt like I wanted to try to get my feelings about it out in a song, and almost like in a zooming out way, where it's like all of this is like so difficult. I think it would be a lot better if everyone was nicer to each other. I think it like takes like really trying to be kind to others to like your own life.
Yeah.
Almost like positivity has like some sort of inertia or something, or like this would be so cliche, but like, smile, it's contagious, or laughter is contagious.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It's kind of been tainted by time and capital.
Yeah.
With sayings like that, where it's like that's something that your shitty boss says when you're having a rough day at work. It's like, smile, it'll make the customers feel better. You're like, I'm gonna hit you.
Right.
But in truth, when you kind of boil it down, there is a lot of resonance there, and that intent is so important.
Yeah, and I have to remind myself of that all the time and every day, because I feel like when I have the like the ability to kind of like zoom out and like get out of a difficult feeling, like if I'm like, man, this person, I can't stand them, or like, how can this person have this viewpoint? It's so terrible. I like really, really try to zoom out and like, and I mean, maybe Christian upbringing over here too kind of informed
that's
that.
where my brain's going too.
Of just being like, but man, like accepting people and loving everyone, even through their most heinous and like disgusting and terrible acts and viewpoints, at the end of the day, I think is better for my mental health if I'm not kind of like holding on to hatred in my body. Because I do feel like if I do that, it is bad and it makes things worse.
Yeah.
So really, it was also a reminder to myself to be like, try to accept everybody for where they are in their journey, even if it sucks, even if it is really difficult, which is really not easy to do all the time. And it's everyone should be forgiven for having difficulty with each other. But
holding on to those things, and we can't always be forgiving in the moment, but trying to be like graceful in the moment, then finding the forgiveness afterwards when you can, and you have a little bit more energy and space. I think is kind of an important daily task process. I don't really know what the word is, but
certainly if you're working at Starbucks and you're dealing with somebody who's like a Trump supporter who's like spitting in your face, like, no, you're not going to have like,
that doesn't mean say thanks, have a nice day.
No, of course
they're in
not.
the right. No, this doesn't mean others are beyond reproach, or any of us are beyond critique. But kind of just having like the loose spiritual idea of not holding it against them as much as you can.
Right.
I think is a good kind of like, and think like it's like almost like something you're passing your thought through.
Yeah.
Okay, before I think too much harder about this, I want to pass it through this and then see where my thoughts take me and see how I still feel about this.
Yeah. It helps my brain and my life experience a little more if I can find those pockets of zooming out.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not always easy. It's not always doable in the moment, but just kind of holding on to it when you can, and whenever you can. Christianity definitely doesn't have a monopoly on the idea of just like loving yourself and others, but they put it pretty concisely, and we live in a world where we live in a Christian nation.
I mean, like probably increasingly, like more and more. But like,
or
is
it decreasing, and the people that are still there are just getting louder?
They're still there. They're getting louder, and they've basically just like they bought a Christianity T-shirt, and they're wearing the T-shirt, and they like threw away all the actual ideas of Christianity. Yeah.
As someone who's no longer Christian, but has a degree in theology. Yeah.
Yep.
that about sums it up. Like, just read the book, guys. Read it on its own. Just read any of these like texts and spiritual things, and just kind of read it without as much bias as you can kind of remove, or as much like take it at face value. Like, oh, that's really weird. It doesn't have to be absolute truth just because people have been saying it is for like 10,000 years, or
totally not
even 10,000. Like 2,000. The world isn't even 10,000 years if you're depending on what kind of Christian you are.
Well, I'm a flat earther, so
no, if you go into space and you look down, it's like a Catan board. It's really scary. The government's going to censor this part of the episode because they don't want us to know.
And I'm thankful.
Yeah, and we're doing you a disservice by telling you.
The chip in my brain tells me that I'm thankful.
Beep, beep. Anyways,
ambient references for that song.
Bringing it back home. Thinking, only one of the songs you played with your band for our live session here, which if it's not out, stay tuned. If it is, go check it out.
Yes,
we're very grateful. Only one of the songs is from this record,
right?
Astral Projection, which, as we talked about earlier, you totally got my ass. I thought it was projection, just auto-filled that. I was like, yep, nope, it's Projection. look closer.
Well, and that's like totally the very regular way for somebody to think of that song title. It's me being like, nope, I'm going to take this totally regular phrase and make it different and then not tell anyone.
Yeah, no, that's kind of like the winking referential like whimsy that has been part of kind of your well, at least from an external perspective, been part of the style and all. I think there's a bit of like,
you got to play.
You got to play. You have to find a way to laugh,
Yes.
even if it's still something very serious and very intent.
Yes. Yeah, because I feel like I always say that, like, with any sort of like the serious themes of consciousness and spiritualism and our journeys, it's like, you can't take it so seriously.
No.
You gotta have a little laugh and you gotta embrace play.
A little bit of why not?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So let's just think about it as if.
Yeah.
And let that carry us forward.
I gotta laugh at myself.
Yeah. But yeah, only one of the songs was from this recent record. The other two, I did a little bit of research once we got the went over the set list earlier.
Oh, nice.
They're like 10 years old.
Yes.
At least in some initial form.
Yeah.
So what was the decision behind maybe those have been staple parts of the Larry Wish experience over the years, and so they've just kind of continued to evolve as you have, or what's that? A lot of times, unless you're like going to see like some legacy act or something playing the state fair, you don't see like
which we hope to be
one day see a 10-year gap between the songs that are getting played. Usually it's like maybe
playing the newest
the newest or like even like last 3 or 4 and at least I think in recorded version, I think Indrid Cold has existed in so many different forms over the years.
Yeah.
So yeah, just I want to hear a little bit about those songs, and just as you continue to revisit your own work and kind of re-excavate songs with a new mindset, a new skill set, new collaborators.
Yes.
Whoever's available that Sunday night.
Exactly. Yeah. That was very much the case.
Yeah.
So with the band Larry Wish and His Guys, that was active like 2010 through 2019, kind of how our workflow would be, I would write songs and probably record them on an album of just me playing all the parts, and then we would do an album, a Larry Wish and His Guys album that would be like select songs that we had learned, and then it would be kind of like, here's the Larry Wish and His Guys version, here's the solo Larry Wish version.
Like a John Fogerty comp where it's got a bunch of CCR songs too.
Yes, yeah. With this band is so new. This current band of myself, Sam Kramer, Pat Kessler, Toivo Hannigan, Alec Tonias, who was not here tonight, and Patrick Adkins, who is also not here tonight.
Oh, Patrick.
Yeah. No slight against the members who were not here. That's my favorite part.
I'll put the slide up.
A slight. No, that's my favorite part of having like a big band and myself being able to kind of play some of the instruments, is that there's lots of wiggle room for like, if somebody can't make it, it doesn't break the machine.
Yeah.
But this band is so new that really any song that we play, it's like a new version. And I feel like there is kind of like such a large songbook that there's a lot of material to play around with. There's new material and old material, so we might as well use all of the resources. And with the song Under the Knife that we played, that was never a band song. Yeah. So that one feels kind of brand new, even though it's from 2013.
Yeah. And like when you watch the session, it'll become apparent, like it's the same 4 people with the same 4 instruments. Like no one's like switching and rotating between the songs, even if, whatever recorded versions out there are just a completely different group of people.
Yeah.
But like the as far as like a live experience goes, the through line is still there, and that's kind of the joy of reinvention.
Yes,
with just different people.
Yeah, because music's so alive.
Yeah,
that it's like, I feel like even with albums, it's like, why not record a song on an album and then record it again on a different album?
Yeah,
that doesn't seem like so wrong to me. I feel like we don't see that all the time, and maybe I'm betting that like major labels would probably be like, hey, Modest Mouse, we don't want you to play you can't put Float on your newest album.
Yeah, but just like 20 years later, it's like, and people might be a bit more cynical about that too. It's like, oh, you're doing the hit again,
right.
Or like when a single comes out and does really well, and they're like, oh, it's the bonus track on our new record.
Right.
No, that's just for streaming. Come on.
Yeah, there's probably all sorts of industry tricks there, but I just like to treat the music like it's alive, and like, why not like play it over and over and over again and have it take different forms and change this chorus here and make that bridge different, add a bridge where there was not a bridge before. Yeah.
And even looking back at your own work, like, it's been so long, you've changed.
Totally.
You look at it with new eyes.
Yes.
And that is already kind of makes you prone to changing things.
Right.
And keeping some things the same. We're like, this still resonates. This still feels good. I want to keep this. Let's tweak this.
Yeah.
Oh, you had that idea. Let's add that there, even though it's never been done before, maybe. And people kind of try to monopolize that with like a jazz, as far as like, oh, that's just something you can apply to almost all music.
Do it in a ska band.
Yeah, do it in a ska band. Do it in a noise band. Do it in a power pop band.
Yeah.
Do it whenever and with whomever.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was cool to see those two songs excavated, and I'm definitely going to listen to the recorded versions just out of I won't say morbid curiosity. It's not morbid at all.
Let's make it morbid.
Let's make it morbid. Your next listener. Excited curiosity. Just like, what do these sound like? What things transcend? What things were kind of just in the moment, and they stayed that way, and they stayed at their place, and they're comfortable there. They're hopefully they checked in and they didn't feel the need to check out. They Hotel California themselves.
That's our next cover.
Yeah. Well, that gotta go. That'd be cool though.
Yeah.
Not that the Eagles need a reevaluation. We can still talk shit about the Eagles.
Why not?
Yeah. Cool. This is maybe, I don't know if this is a repeat question, but since it's at least been a year and different things always come to mind.
Yeah.
What's something that you really love and appreciate about yourself, about your creative process, about what you bring to your own table, to others' tables, to really double down with table metaphors? But not even just like limiting yourself to this record. It could be something that totally goes beyond that, but just something that kind of like shouting yourself out before we get to the shouting everybody else out part of the episode.
I think that my favorite thing that I bring to my table is that I have embraced at this point setting the table in different ways, and have really embraced like accepting change in creating music, accepting that the process can and maybe should be different for different things, and just having flexibility and a really just like an obsession and a drive and almost a need for variety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You didn't go to like manners class and just get locked in a box. Like it has to be this way every time.
No.
Like they did in the old days.
Yeah.
Across the sea.
And I think that's something that's had to be learned for me. I think that I feel like I used to kind of get a little bit discouraged if things did not like go exactly as I planned them, or like, oh, that sounded different this time, or yada yada yada, or oh, like I'm not making this album like the way I made a different one. Like I feel like the flexibility and the desire to adapt and chase variety and try new things is something that I really love about myself as a person, and not just like an artist or a musician.
It comes out in all capacities, in all contexts.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got a 15-month-old who makes sure that is the case every day.
Keeps you on your toes, to say the least.
Yes.
Yeah. Before we again get into the kind of the recommendation corner, what does the immediate Larry Wish related future have? We don't really know when this is gonna come out, so this might kind of just time out of mind, time out of place.
Okay, cool.
But
That's good to know. Well, next week we're playing at.
Sometimes it is
Cadence.
that, and
Yeah.
that's totally cool. That's totally fine. And then it's like, well, that gig happened.
4 months ago we played at Cadence Records in St. Paul.
And if you were there, you knew it was a good time. And if you weren't, Undercurrent might have a video if you really want to relive it. I
Check
guess.
out YouTube.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. But
Okay, in a more ambient sense.
like you as a writer, you as a creator, as a band leader.
So one thing that that if it hasn't happened by the time this airs and we're all listening to it, there is a plan to record a new EP with the current iteration of this band, full membership, on 8-track with our friend Austin Lombardo, aka Shrimp Olympics.
Friend of the
I
pod.
asked, I asked Austin if he would produce an EP by us and record it on 8-track, because I've never recorded an album on 8-track. To tape. I've done 4-track. I know Austin's really good with an 8-track and is game to produce an EP. So that is one fun thing in the future. Another goal is we just got back from Duluth, which was very fun. I want to do a lot more kind of like regional, getting out of the Twin Cities shows, because I always love traveling. I always love touring. I love going to different places in Minnesota and like places that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a goal for this band, is just more like doing a Minnesota only tour. I think would be very fun. Yeah. And I want to see more of this area, because I love living here. I love the Twin Cities. I love going to different places in Minnesota. And I love playing for new audiences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, taking advantage of open ears, and whether they're aware that they're open or not, or they're just playing to people who happen to be at the bar, or whatever. And then maybe they'll come up and like, hey, that was really cool, and it was kind of made their night better, right? And that makes your night better.
Yeah, we just want to entertain.
Want to create something in the moment.
Yes, and sometimes that looks like the people sitting at the bar throwing coasters and French fries at you.
Hey, free French fries.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It depends on how clean the floor is.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't recommend letting them hit the floor. Well, if you're hearing this and you are a booking agent, or you book for a venue, hit Adam's line, and we can make this a reality.
Please do.
Yeah. Our audience is entirely booking agents. It's like a trade magazine. It's really weird. I don't know how we boxed them in. Yeah. As we wrap up here, this is the only part that I know is for sure a repeat from last time. Mm-hmm. Who are some of the friends that you've been playing with that maybe have their own projects, just bands you've been excited about? Usually it ends up being local bands, but even just like DIY or smaller bands that you've come across that you want to shine a spotlight on, since we're all about getting as many ears onto the artist's music that we're talking to, but also who they want to kind of bring into the fold and help new folks connect with.
Okay. I think I have a couple that come straight to mind. The first one is lovely trio by the name of Rice. Have you heard Rice?
Yeah, they're kind of like an ambient.
Yeah, I keep saying electroacoustic just because that's the only I feel like that's the
more
context
specific,
that I have. It's like, okay, you're using acoustic instruments, you're using electronic instruments, you're processing acoustic instruments, you're processing electronic instruments. There's acoustic things, there's digital things.
Yeah.
Acoustic, acousto-electric. But yeah, very ambient electronic music. Very experimental just in how they treat all of the things being played. They have a release that we're about to announce for Bumpy. We're announcing it on the 5th of July. It has been announced on the 5th of July. It will come out on July 26th. It came out on July 26th.
We're gonna overlay all those, so just July 26th.
Yeah. So very, very excited that they are trusting me with putting out their new album on Bumpy. I'm really psyched for it. It's a beautiful album. Please check out Rice. Another one is a band, like a wonderful, squiggly, skronky, a playful, absurdist, heinous, wild, super fun, like avant rock punk band by the name of Egg Girl Girl.
Egg Girl Girl.
Yes, yeah. Which there might be something in the works for Bumpy there as well. I'm going to say that the album is coming out on blah, 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 or came out on blah, 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 depending on when this aired.
Just look, investigate Egg Girl Girl, and you will be happy no matter what, I hope.
No doubt. You'll be elated.
You're just like beaming right into my brain, at least as far as the teasers.
Yes. Those are two of some of my favorite artists right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely check out both of them. In this case, we can also say check out, just stay on top of what Adam's putting out with Bumpy, your label.
Yes.
Self-released a lot of Larry Wish stuff as well as his latest record.
Yeah.
Is this the first time Bumpy has put out vinyl? And when I know it because it's the first time that a Larry Wish album has been on wax.
Yes. It was a double whammy.
Yeah.
First record of mine in general, and then first record out on Bumpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that also goes to say that there are physicals for this latest record, The Mind is a Builder.
Yes.
Pick one up if you enjoyed the record, if you want to support Adam and his work.
Please.
Where else can people find you and stay on top of what you're doing, both as an artist, as a label head, for lack of a better word, as a again multi-hyphenate.
Right.
Come back to that. Just like, I don't know what to call you. You do so much.
Anything works.
Yeah.
You can't be wrong.
Yeah.
There is finally a Larry Wish website.
Cool.
So you can
huge.
Yeah, it's huge for me. I feel like I've never had a website for Larry Wish before, but you can go to larrywish.net. We got the .net.
The .net.
Thank you, Band Zoogle. Shout out Band Zoogle for making the website happen.
I love it when we can have a new word on your copy. I don't think anyone's said Band Zoogle before.
Yeah, they are the web hosting platform that I'm trying to think of how I found that. I think it was through Bandcamp. It was some sort of like a suggestion. Yeah. Maybe it was even like Spotify for artists. I have no idea. You can also go to bumpy.bandcamp.com for all things Bumpy, and of course larrywish.bandcamp.com for all Larry Wish releases.
Yeah, and we didn't get into this, but you've already put out at least some kind of EP since The Mind is a Builder. I didn't look too closely into what it is because I know I've just gone back down the rabbit hole of just looking through all your different releases.
That's
and be like, wait, what's this one? What's this one? Because there's like a live from a room kind of session. I think it was volume 2 of the
volume
series.
2, yeah. Living Room Companion, volume 2. Living Room Companion is something that I started last year, where I kind of just had some material that was played live and never released, kind of floating around. And so I decided, I should probably start a series that I know will continue, because I probably will continue to do one-off performances with like brand new music that isn't really on an album or anything. So last year Living Room Companion Volume 1 came out, and just in the end of May, I think.
It was quite recent.
Or June, yeah.
We're recording.
Recently, Living Room Companion Volume 2 came out with the bulk of that release is a big, like 20-plus long piece that was just played at the Noise Party Volume 7 at Ice House on May 19th.
Okay. Just, I only brought that up just to go to show you the restless creativity and just kind of output that we're dealing with. It's like, we got to focus in on the main record that we're going to talk about. Otherwise, I know I'll find myself just kind of going down the list.
And then there's 4 other new ones.
By the time this comes out, there very well might be another EP. We've already talked about that.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, this just goes to show you'll find something that will surprise you, intrigue you, engage your brain.
Something for everybody.
Something for everybody. It's real. We're centrists here. No. Beep, delete that. But just investigate Larry Wish.
Please.
I think you'll find more than just The Mind is the Builder.
Yeah.
Though that is definitely the record I'm encouraging you to check out, dear listener. It's a wonderful experience, and I think it's just a great record. I'm really honored you came by to talk about it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you to your bandmates who were so kind enough to again take time out of a Sunday night. We all skipped night church for this.
I know.
We're gonna get a paddling tomorrow when the pastor finds us. I'm glad I'm editing this because I can delete all my jokes.
Darn. I'm the one I really wanted. Oh no, I guess I'm gonna skip night church again.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you, Aly, for having me. This has been a second amazing and fantastic interview.
You have been listening to the Ear Coffee Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, review, and share so we can stand out against the sea of other music podcasts. You can find information and other important links in the show notes of this episode. If you would like to support us, please consider subscribing on Patreon for early access to live sessions and other bonus content. You can also subscribe to our Substack for a regular newsletter with reviews, ramblings, and anything else we have to say. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.